We have a reservation at 1 o'clock for a tour.
Alright, first name?
Dawn Mitchell.
Huh? We went straight back all the way, park on the right down there, walk toward the building, just follow the signs.
All right. Thank you. Smell that.
Yeah. Tours, gift shops, and events.
They're not in production.
Uh-huh. It's a little windy.
It's damp.
It's damp. Hello. Good.
We're here for 1 o'clock, but we're way early.
You're way.
Drink though, so.
What can we get for you? We got a menu right there on the side.
Yeah, right? This is cool.
We make that. We make Alan Jackson's bourbon.
Oh, I think I knew that.
I just saw
Yeah.
that out there.
Called Silver Belly.
See? We saw that we've been doing a little bourbon shopping since we've been down here. But we did not know that about Alan Jackson's.
Yes, please. That's almost the best thing.
It is. 25 cents a cherry, you know.
Yeah,
from
yeah.
Italy.
We got our friends on hook on them too. So those junky ones.
Nice one, Sardos.
Those are awesome.
I'm sorry. I handed that to you.
No, it's.
I was gonna sit up front. I mean, I like me a good.
She looked like she was ready for it.
I know. So Alan Jackson, I don't have to go get.
So, before we get started, I'm going to say welcome to Green River, welcome to Kentucky, for those not from Kentucky, and welcome to Owensboro. My name is Wes, I'm a tour guide here, and I'll be taking us out on our journey across the distillery today. Alright, so we're going to get started with some history. So in the year 1885, a man by the name of J.W. McCulloch built a distillery right here on these grounds. However, the original distillery was actually located just a few miles west of here, on the banks of the Green River, but then he soon decided to move everything here to the Ohio River for better shipping routes and shipping purposes. The Ohio River goes a lot more places than the little Green River does over there in McLean County. Now, while being here, Green River whiskey actually became the most advertised whiskey in the world, and it was actually considered one of the most expensive. It was said that a Colorado man traded his shares of a gold mine for 20 barrels of Green River whiskey. So when we go over to the tasting room today, above the doors you're going to see 20 Barrel Saloon. On the back wall you're going to see Forest Queen. Now that is the name of the gold mine in Colorado, which is still active today. You could say it panned out to be very, very successful. A little joke for you. So the whiskey that was traded is actually known as the most expensive whiskey ever sold. So pretty cool story, but not only did this place have cool stories, it won plenty of awards while being here. It won the Chicago's Fair here in the United States for the best spirit multiple times, but it was also very popular in Europe. It won awards in Paris, Belgium, Milan. Now it was pretty rare to be popular in Europe in the late 1800s, early 1900s, because the Europeans didn't want to do much with us Yankees here in the United States. Now unfortunately, at the height of all of its popularity, in 1918, a trash fire actually took out the entire distillery in about 3 hours. So if you can imagine in your head a burning, flowing river of fire just tearing through buildings, that's basically what happened right where we're standing. So 1918 we have that fire, 1920 starts Prohibition, so a couple rough years for the world. I like to think because bourbon's gone, but obviously there's a lot more reasons than that, right? And then throughout Prohibition, J.W. McCulloch, he did unfortunately pass away in 1927, so he was never able to rebuild the distillery. Now 33 rolls around, Prohibition finally ends, the world's back and happy, right? Because bourbon's back. Again, more reasons than that. But the distillery here was rebuilt just after Prohibition, but the company that rebuilt this place, they went bankrupt. So in 1936 entered the Medley family. They're a local Owensboro distilling family, and they ran the operations right here from 1936 until 1992. Charles Medley, he was actually the last master distiller here. He actually still visits periodically to this day, which is pretty cool. While they were here, they produced products such as Ezra Brooks, Mellow Corn, Medley Brothers, Five Brothers, Walthans, and they were actually all produced right out there. So our beautiful event and venue center that we're hosting a very large wedding this weekend at was actually their bottling house from the 1930s. There used to be 6 bottling lines right in that room, and then the tasting room was actually Charles's office when he was here. So once he decided to seize all operations in 1992, this property as a whole practically remained vacant with no distilling operations of any kind, mainly sat for storage for about 22 years. In 2014, our company came in and bought the facility. It took us 2 years and $20 million to get this place back up and open. So about 2016, we did finally produce our first 18,000 barrels. Now at that point, we were a very young company, but we were very happy and excited to get started, so we weren't finished. So in 2017, we did a $7 million expansion, and that brought our production from producing around that 18,000 barrels per year to producing around 72,000 barrels per year. So a huge jump up, and it actually made us the 10th largest privately owned bourbon distillery in the world. Now, again, we were not finished. That sounds like a commercial, but wait, there's more. Because in October of 2019, we did another $7 million expansion, and that actually brings us today to our total current barrel capacity. In 2021, we did 94,000 barrels that year, and that actually makes us the 4th largest privately owned or independently owned bourbon distillery, period. So a lot to do in such a little short period of time, especially because in the bourbon world, time is precious with aging and all that wonderful stuff. But does anybody in here have any questions about our history, anything that I've covered so far?
What's the Ozzy Tyler connection?
Ozzy Tyler? So when we go into the rick house, we'll see some barrels that say Ozzy Tyler. So that's what we opened up as in 2014. That stands for Orville Zelotes Tyler. He was a co-founder of our parent company in Charleston, South Carolina. He was a pretty cool guy. He actually invented some really cool things. Anybody in here like canned soda? Yeah. So he actually invented the inner lining of a Coke can, so the acid in that Coke doesn't tear through the aluminum. And he actually also invented AstroTurf and outdoor carpeting. So very successful, very wealthy man, I would assume. He also had a lot of patents in the distilling industry. Unfortunately, he did pass away right before we opened up in 2014. And we didn't have the rights to the Green River name yet, so we wanted to pay homage to him. But we did rebrand to Green River in 2020. Any other good questions about? Yes, sir.
Was Ezra Brooks, was that a real person?
Ezra Brooks.
You know, like the brand that...
I'm not sure. I'll get an answer for you though.
I was curious.
I'll hit him. I'll text one of my buddies. He'll know for sure. But yeah, I'll get an answer for you. All right. So throughout the tour today, I'm going to be talking about the rules to making bourbon. The first rule states that it must be made in the United States. Well, we're in Kentucky, so we got that one covered, right?
Yeah.
Now the second one does have to deal with the grain, so we'll head outside and we'll talk about that.
Okay.
Sound good?
Yep.
All right. So some other cool notables about us. When the original Green River was here in 1885, it was actually the official whiskey of the United States Naval Hospital for medicinal purposes. The slogan was a whiskey without a headache. Well, today, obviously, you can't make medical claims with alcohol, so today we are known as a whiskey without regrets. Because a regret can mean anything, right? We've all had those days. Trying to figure out that Ezra Brooks is a question. Go ahead and ride that Green River right there.
All right.
Everybody hear me okay?
Yep.
Everybody in the back? Alrighty, so quality bourbon starts with quality grain, which all enters the process right here. Now the second rule to making bourbon states that it must be made of 51% or more corn. Now seeing that we are in Kentucky, we do source all of our corn right here in Davis County in about a 30-mile radius. But the rye and malted barley, they do actually grow better in colder climates, so we get those from the Pacific Northwest and Canada. So as you can see, we receive both by truck and by rail car. Right now we do actually only receive by truck. So if you can imagine in your head, that truck's going to pull underneath this awning that you see. It's then going to empty its load into the receiving pit, which is that metal grate right there. And then that grain is going to go up via conveyor to one of 6 storage hoppers, each holding an entire truckload of grain, which is around 1,000 bushels of corn or 1,500 bushels of rye and malted barley. So then after being stored, it is then dropped down to our 2 ground hammer mills. And you can kind of see those yellow handrails are about eye level. And that's going to mill our grain right here on site. So then after being ground, it is then sent to what we call the back tower. And that back tower does have an automatic weighing system, so it's going to give us the exact amount of grain, particular mass bill that we're making for that day. Any questions on any of that? All right, so if you look up here at this still house, you see where the roof is elevated up there on the left-hand side. So that is actually where the old medley grain system used to be housed. But it was made predominantly of wood. And in that 22 years of vacancy I was telling you about, there was a tear in the roof. So a lot of water, a lot of wood. When we got here, it was all destroyed. So we decided to build ours outside, and that was for 3 reasons. The first reason is pretty obvious. It's not going to fit in that building, right? Now the second one is for expansion, so we can expand it whenever and however we need to. And then the third reason is for safety. Grinding grain is actually the most dangerous thing we do here while making bourbon, because if ground grain does this, compressed into the air, it can spontaneously combust. It's called a grain fire. Pull this even far away, but you don't want to be anywhere near it. It looks like fireworks or popcorn. Any questions on any of that? Alrighty, so we're going to head over here to the door that says Green River, and we'll get ready to go to the still house.
Does that really have hot water in it?
Oh yeah, still used today. We could get delivery service, that'd be pretty cool.
Yes.
Alrighty, can you guys hear me in the back there? Alright, so when you're a distiller in Kentucky, you get what is known as a DSP number, basically a license number. So DSP stands for Distilled Spirits Plant, KY because we're in Kentucky, and then 10. So all the license numbers in Kentucky were actually handed out in order. So we do actually hold the 10th oldest distilling license number in the state of Kentucky. Now that does put us in a pretty rare company, seeing that 95% of the world's bourbon is made right here in Kentucky. So when we go into this room right here, take a look at the list on the left-hand side. It's going to kind of put it into perspective a little bit. Alrighty, can y'all hear me back there? Alright, so this is our still house, named aptly for this 4-story column still that you can see behind me. Now before we get to that grain is going to come from outside and be put into one of our 3 stainless steel mash cookers, or we refer to them as mash tubs. There's one right here, one back here to my right, and then one in the room across the way. So we're going to add that grain into there. We'll then add water from our on-site limestone wells, and then we're going to start that cooking process. Now it's going to be cooked for about 1 hour, and then cooled, and then sent over to fermentation. Now we'll go over there in just a second, but it's going to stay over there for about 3 days, or until it reaches just shy of 8% alcohol by volume. Now as soon as there is alcohol in the mixture, we call it distiller's beer. We wait till it reaches that 8% alcohol by volume before sending it to the beer well, which is just right outside that window. Now the beer well is going to feed the still. The still is a 54-inch, 4-story column still that basically separates the alcohol from the grain and the water. So we're going to add that distiller's beer at the top. It'll then flow down several plates inside that column still, and steam's injected to the bottom. The alcohol will then rise to the top. It is then captured and condensed and flowing out right here. That is real time. That's what we call low wine. It's coming up here at 60% alcohol by volume, or 120 proof. So after flowing out of here, flowing into this guy, this is what is called a copper doubler. Basically a second distillation. What that's going to do is going to further refine or concentrate that liquid and basically get all the impurities out of the product. So after flowing out of here, flowing into this guy, this is also real time. It's what we call high wine. You guys may know better as New Make or White Dog. It's coming up here at 69% alcohol by volume, or 138 proof. Now, if we refer back to the rules to making bourbon, we talked about the first 2. Must be made in the U.S., must be 51% or more corn. The third rule to making bourbon states that it cannot be distilled any greater than 160 proof. So we're good at that 138, right? Everybody shake your head?
Yeah.
Alrighty. So then that New Make or White Dog is going to travel across these pipes over to processing, where we're going to cut that 138 back down to 120 proof, and that's going to be our barrel entry proof. Now the 4th rule to making bourbon states that it cannot be put into the barrel any greater than 125 proof. So we're good at that 120, right? Any questions on any of that? We all good? Alrighty. So if you look over here at these black panel boxes, those are original to the 1930s. That is how the Medleys ran the still house when they were here. There used to be about 15 of those panel boxes in here, and it took about 20 individuals to run the still house. Today it does actually only take us 1 individual. We use a sophisticated computing system, and what that's going to do is going to further maintain that consistency from batch to batch, and it's going to give us a high quality product overall. Any questions?
I have one.
Yes, ma'am.
So the guy who's wanting that, is he have a degree person or learn on the job kind of?
So they can have a degree. I know one thing they would like to have for them to have a degree, but a lot of them just learn from the very first job,
Oh,
and then
cool.
just learn while you're on the job.
Oh, it's complicated.
Yeah, he's got about 6 computer screens
Yeah,
in there.
it's complicated.
Oh, yeah. Any other good questions? All right, so again, feel free to snap pictures, do whatever you want to do, and then we'll head over to fermentation. When you get to that yellow gate right over there, take a look up, and you can see the full bore storage stills. Alright, we got everybody? Alright, so the still that you just saw, it is actually the 4th largest still in the industry. Most are around 24 to 36 inches wide. Ours is 54 inches wide. Right now it's producing at 90 gallons per minute. I know max capacity we can get it up to 104 gallons per minute. It is crazy to think about. A barrel is 53 gallons, so we're almost producing 2 barrels a minute, which is crazy. But yeah, pretty cool.
Yeah.
Now, welcome. This is our central fermentation room. Everything in this room is brand new except for the 4 walls. Now, when we started renovations on this place, that picture right back there happened.
Oh, wow.
The entire roof actually caved in.
Oops.
Luckily, nobody was injured, but it took a pretty good mind to picture that could become this today. Now, during one of our expansions, we added these 8 stainless steel tanks that you see right here and behind me. Now, before these guys were in here, there were actually 8 cypress wood tanks, and they belonged to Charles Medley. Now, when he decided to cease all operations in 1992, he actually sold those tanks to Maker's Mark to further refurbish their tanks. Now, although those tanks are traditional to the industry, they're almost impossible to keep clean from cross-contamination. And since we produce many different mash bills here, it's a lot easier for us to clean these stainless steel tanks because we can just lock the lids down, introduce steam, and they'll clean themselves. But if we still had those cypress wood tanks, anytime we want to change a mash bill, you guys probably have to get down inside there and manually scrub it every single time. You don't want to do that, do you? I don't either. So we're very thankful for our stainless steel tanks, and we have 27 of them. So I wouldn't want to scrub 27 tanks.
No.
Any questions on any of that? All right, so we're going to head to the next room here. We do have a lower style tank, so I can open it up, let you look inside and smell. Just be careful. We are producing alcohol. Alcohol does produce CO2. So if you lean too far over and try to take a big old whiff, it can take your breath away. Also, those with glasses, just be careful. I'm not going in after your glasses, but just be careful. If you want your breath taken away, just look at me.
Yeah.
Get you a good whiff and smell, and then we'll head over there into the next room. Alright, can everybody hear me okay?
Yep.
Alright, pretty weird that becomes bourbon, right? Kind of doesn't make any sense. Kind of helps you think about how the guy that did invent bourbon, he's a dang genius, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So every single tank that you see holds just shy of 16,000 gallons. Now that grain's going to come from outside, be cooked, cooled, and then sent over here to these guys. And then we're going to add that yeast, and we're going to start distilling those sugars into 2 things, alcohol and CO2. Now since the mash does start full of sugar, it does start to smell and taste very, very sweet. But slowly throughout that 3-day fermentation period, it starts to take the turn from sweet smelling and tasting to more sour and acidic. By day 3, there is little to no movement. It kind of looks like the top of cornbread. But this is just an eye test for us. We do have scientists that are coming in here every single day, every single hour, making sure we get just shy of that 8% alcohol by volume. Once we achieve that, these tanks will then drop it from the bottom, get sent to the beer well, and then we'll start that distilling process. Any questions? We good? A little bit. But get ready to breathe deep because we're going to get some free bourbon.
Woo.
Sound good?
Yep.
All right, let's do it.
You get that whiff.
You get that trash.
I'm surprised they're not black on the outside. Do you guys clean them, or you just don't get the effect like all the others?
I guess since there's so many layers of this clay tile, it may not be as bad.
Yeah.
And then plus we don't have a ton of windows in here, so it may not just creep out as much as some of the, I guess, metal rick houses or even the wood ones in the brick ones.
So what's the deal with the
Eyeballs?
I was gonna say phases of the moon, but
Alright, yeah, so we'll talk about all these specialty barrels that you're seeing on the way out. We'll come down here. This is where the real view's at.
oh, love this.
I'm gonna hang it right here, so we'll kind of start here and just make a big
All right,
horseshoe type shape.
I'm gonna stay right here.
Alrighty, well, welcome to Rick House A. I like to say welcome to my office.
Nice.
I unlock the doors every morning and turn the lights on, and then lock them and then turn the lights off every night. So basically my office, right? Or at least they trust me with a lot of money. We got a lot of money here. So every single Rick House you see here on site does hold 20,000 barrels. Now a barrel empty is a little over 100 pounds. A barrel full is well over 500 pounds. So I'll go ahead and do the math for you, since some of us aren't the best at math. Just all jokes. But we got about 20 million pounds of weight in here, or 7 jumbo jets stacked up on top of each other. So 4 floors, 5,000 barrels of floor. So we got about 4.5 jumbo jets on top of our heads right now. Nothing to be scared of, right? Sorry if you are scared. But we do, with all that weight, we do use 2 types of technology to make sure it is safe in here. The first one is going to be an old school technology called a plumb bob. That's basically just a weight on a string attached to the center of the building, pointing to a point. If the building were to ever shift, it'll move off that point. But we also use a new school technology, and those are called structure-right sensors. And what those do is they'll measure every single angle of every single rick 24/7, while also measuring the temperature, the humidity, basically the life cycle of the building. So if there is ever a shift, it will send us an alert to our phone, and we would get out, but the barrel guys would have to come in and start moving barrels around. So say the building has shifted this way, we'll have to move barrels here from the top, move them down here to the bottom, and it'll anchor that building back to level and plumb. Very rare does it happen. It's kind of like a natural disaster type thing. Anytime there's strong winds, tornadoes, even an earthquake, we'll come in here and double check just to make sure. Do you have a question?
No.
Okay. Gotcha. All right. Any questions on anything we've covered so far? All right. So if we look at the barrels again, all of our barrels are handmade by Coopers at Cooperages. We do use 2 of the bigger in the state, Independent Stave and Speyside. So if you look, there are no glue, screws, or nails in any of these barrels. So the wooden staves will get pressed together, the metal bands will then hold those staves together, and then the liquid inside pushes out and keeps everything liquid tight. Now the most likely spot for a barrel to leak is right here at the top. That is called the bung, B-U-N-G. It's where we fill and dump the barrel. So it is very important that stays in the most upright position. So the barrel guys know there are 23 barrels in a rick. A rick is a row. Say this barrel is going down to spot number 7. They may position that bung at 2 o'clock when putting it in. By the time it rolls down to spot number 7, that bung is going to be at 12 o'clock. And that is called clocking the barrel. That is how every single barrel you see is put into these rick houses. It is very slow and it is very labor intensive. So once our barrels do come in here, they stay put. We do not rotate them. And they stay put until the master distiller gives us the okay to get them out and get them bottled. Any questions on any of that?
Do you know if the majority of distillers actually do rotate their barrels?
Most don't anymore, just because it's a lot of labor just to get them in here in the first place. There are some smaller craft distilleries that will do it, but really any of the bigger ones, not much anymore. That's a great question. All right, so we're gonna head over here. We'll talk about these specialty barrels, and then we'll get ready to go grind. Do some grinding. All right, so these first 3 barrels, these racks are the first 3 barrels that we ever produced. We already talked about O.Z. Tyler. We all know about his cool inventions and all his cool stuff. So we did open up as O.Z. Tyler. And if we kind of follow the timeline of these barrels down to here, this is when we rebranded to Green River in 2020. Now there are a couple important signatures on here. The first one is right here at the bottom right. That is J. Rob McCulloch. That is J.W. McCulloch's great-grandson. He was here for the rebranding of Green River. He was very happy, very excited to not only see his great-grandfather's distillery back up and open, but since the launch of Green River Bourbon February 10th of this year, we did actually revive over a century-old legacy with the launch of Green River Bourbon, since the last time it was produced here was actually in 1918 when that fire hit. And then the other important signature on here is unfortunately not on here. I was not here yet.
Oh.
And then the eyeballs that are staring back at you, On August 21st of 2017, we did have the Great American Eclipse. So every single barrel you see was actually the phase of that eclipse. So they start smaller, get bigger, bigger, bigger. If you follow the eclipse all the way down here to the middle, y'all can walk on down this way if you'd like. This actually does represent totality. Now we had a local artist come in. His name was Rex Robinson. He built this one up for us. If you have a smartphone or just a phone in general that has a flashlight on it, you can throw a flashlight on the middle here, and there's actually a shadow of a man playing the mandolin. That's to pay homage to Bill Monroe, who's the father of bluegrass music. His homestead's not too far from here, and then here in Owensboro we do have the International Bluegrass Museum and Hall of Fame. So I'm sure we're going to be doing some special edition with this guy here in the near future. I know one idea that's kind of floating around is that we wait until 2024 when we have the next Great American Eclipse, and then we'll have a 7-year-old double eclipse bourbon.
That'd be cool.
Probably be worth a little more money, right?
That's good marketing right there.
Oh yeah. Now, I was also a marketing major. I went to Murray State, graduated in 2021, go Racers. If you know John Morant, I was in class with him. Pretty cool guy, really quiet. My idea is that we do a full single barrel foolproof series of 21 bottles. So each of these have a scientific name, each phase has a scientific name. I did take astronomy, I got a B. I don't know the phases of these, but I can do more research, right? But we can name those, each of those, that scientific name of the phases, and then obviously this guy will be worth the most, right?
Yeah.
There'll be crazy people out there, they'll bottle.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's worth what you'll pay for it, right?
Yep. Right.
So any questions on anything we've seen in here, anything we've covered in the tour so far? We all good? We ready to drink?
Sure.
All right, so we'll head out these doors and we'll get ready to go into the tasting room.
How many in your group? 2?
2, my group.
Yep. So you guys will be all the way down in the front at the end.
Okay.
And 2 as well, all the way in the front.
We must be in the front row. Blue skies. You can hear it working. And this is the train tracks. Did you get some lunch?
Yeah.
Did you get something at the gift shop?
Always. You can't ever leave the distillery empty-handed.
Oh, you can hear it go through.
Those little pipes are
I know.
transporting over to the good stuff. We didn't